If there was a photograph that could sum up my childhood, it would be one of those family portraits where everyone is smiling, but you can tell, if you look close enough, that one person doesn't quite belong. That person was me. From the moment my sister could recite the alphabet backward while standing on one leg and blinking in Morse code, she became the sun in our household. Everything revolved around her grades, her piano recitals, her science fair ribbons, and me. I was the background. I was the unfiltered sky behind her spotlight. Growing up, I tried harder than anyone will ever know. I brought home a B+ once in math after weeks of tutoring myself on YouTube. I thought Dad would smile, just a little. Instead, he looked over his glasses and said, "Why not an A? Your sister never got less than an A." I stopped bringing home report cards after that. Still, I loved them. I wanted to be seen. I cracked jokes at dinner to lighten the mood. I fixed the Wi-Fi. I helped Mom when she was sick. I always showed up, even when no one noticed I had. But one evening shattered what little hope I had left. It was a Sunday. Dad had invited my sister and her fiancé over for dinner. The whole house was glowing, like it always did when she was around. Mom made her famous biryani. There were new candles on the table, and Dad even wore cologne. We sat down, and the night began the same way it always did, with updates about her life. Her promotion, her company retreat to Switzerland, her new car, her fiancé's start-up. I nodded and smiled. I wasn't jealous, just invisible. "So, what have you been up to?" my sister asked, passing me the salad bowl. I paused, "Just working." I said, "I've been freelancing, mostly online stuff, design, branding, a few clients overseas. It's been going well." Dad snorted. Not laughed, snorted. Like what I said was somehow funny. "You mean playing around on your laptop?" he said, waving his fork like a judge delivering a verdict. "That's not work." My stomach dropped. I looked at Mom, but she was already pouring water into my sister's glass. "I'm actually building something. I made a few grand last month," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He set his fork down. "Look, I'm going to be honest with you. Your sister is successful and responsible, unlike you." Silence. My face flushed with heat, not just from the words, but from the way he said them, so effortlessly, like it was fact. My sister's eyes flicked to mine, but she didn't say anything. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to ask him if he even knew how many nights I stayed up until 4 a.m. learning new skills. If he knew how hard it was to believe in yourself when no one else did. If he knew how many times I'd wanted to quit, but didn't, because even though they gave me nothing, I still wanted to give them something to be proud of. Instead, I stood up, excused myself, and went to the bathroom. I stared at my reflection in the mirror, my hands gripping the sink. "Unlike you," that phrase echoed in my head. It wasn't the first time he said something like that, but for some reason, that night, it cut deeper. Maybe it was the way everyone just kept eating like nothing had happened. Like his words didn't just break something in me. I washed my face and returned to the table. I smiled. I cracked a joke about dessert. I helped Mom with the dishes. I performed, and later that night, while lying on my bed staring at the ceiling fan, something inside me shifted. I wasn't going to beg them to see me anymore. I wasn't going to compete in a race I was never allowed to win. I didn't want to be the golden child. I wanted to be me, loudly, proudly, quietly if I had to, so I opened my laptop. And I got to work. They say revenge is best served cold. I didn't want revenge, not at first. I just wanted peace. And a little bit of proof, not for them, for me. After that night, I made myself a promise. No more waiting for applause in a room that never clapped for me. I moved out within 2 months. It wasn't dramatic. No shouting match, no middle finger. Just a simple note on the fridge. A rented room 2 cities over. And the soft click of a front door that would never open the same way again. It was a small space, 1 window, a mattress on the floor, and a second-hand desk with a drawer that jammed every time I opened it. But it was mine. I didn't need permission to exist in that space. That was the first freedom I'd ever tasted. I worked like I was on fire. Mornings were for client calls, afternoons for design revisions, evenings for coffee shop shifts that paid the rent while I built the dream. Nights were sacred. That's when I taught myself everything: copywriting, branding, taxes, contracts, time management, failure. God, I learned failure like it was a second language. I didn't post anything on social media. No humble brags, no filtered selfies at 2 a.m. with a laptop and coffee mug. I wasn't building a life for them to like. I was building a future I could survive in. For months, my father didn't call. My mother texted me once, "Your sister got engaged, so happy," smiling face with smiling eyes. No, how are you? No, we miss you. And honestly, that silence hurt more than I expected. Still, I stayed busy. I built a client base, designed logos, pitch decks, social strategies. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. People respected my work, paid me, referred me. Slowly, I went from surviving to stacking. I'd look at my bank account every night. Not because I was greedy, but because every extra dollar felt like an apology I never got. I kept track of everything, every invoice, every payment, every dollar earned, and every hour worked. I started a folder on my desktop. Receipts. I made $800 the first month, then $1 $400, then $2 $600. Some months I dipped. Others I soared, but I never stopped. By the end of year 1, I'd crossed $45 zero, all while still working part-time just to cover rent and student loans. I cried that night, quietly, in the shower, not because of the number, but because I proved myself wrong. The voice in my head, the one that sounded like my dad's, said I couldn't do it, that I was lazy, that I was a failure, but there I was, building something no one could take away from me. Meanwhile, back home, the updates continued. Your sister bought a house. Your sister and her husband are traveling to Bali. Your sister is thinking of starting a YouTube channel. Each message was a reminder of where I stood in their eyes, nowhere. But I didn't reply. I didn't bite. I was too busy getting better. By the middle of year 2, I finally let go of the part-time job. I had 3 retainer clients by then, bringing in consistent income. I built my own website, created templates, launched digital products. I even mentored a few other freelancers who reminded me of myself in that first messy year. By the end of year 2, my earnings hit 6 figures, $105 to $147, 34. I took a screenshot, printed it, filed it, and for a moment I sat in my tiny room, surrounded by everything I had built with bare hands and late nights, and whispered to myself, "You did this, you." But even then, even with that number staring me in the face, I didn't tell anyone, not friends, not old classmates. Certainly not my family, because it was never about them. Well, not entirely, until the invitation came. It was a Sunday brunch, a family reunion of sorts. My sister was hosting it at her new house. Everyone was going to be there. Old aunts, distant cousins, the same people who had patted her head and ignored mine for decades. I almost deleted the invite. But I didn't. Something inside me stirred, not anger, not pride, just readiness. 2 years ago, I walked away quietly. Now I was ready to walk back, even if just to say, "You never asked, but here's what you missed." I zipped up the folder of receipts, invoices, and screenshots, tucked them into my bag, and smiled, not because I was planning revenge, but because I didn't need one. The truth was enough, and I was done hiding it. The last time I saw my father, he didn't look me in the eyes. He looked through me. That day at the brunch, I walked in wearing black jeans and a tucked-in shirt. Nothing fancy, nothing loud. I didn't need to be seen this time. I came to be heard. The house was bigger than I expected. Marble floors, an open kitchen, a manicured backyard with fairy lights strung above a long table filled with family. People laughed over drinks and roasted meats, lively, perfect, on brand for my sister. When she saw me at the door, her eyes widened like she wasn't sure whether to hug me or warn me. "Hey," she said softly, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Didn't think you'd actually come." "I didn't either," I replied. She hesitated. "Dad's been asking about you lately, you know, quietly." I smiled, that polite, practice kind of smile you wear like armor. "Let's eat," I said. We sat outside, under the lights, next to uncles and cousins I hadn't seen in years. They asked the usual questions, "So what do you do these days?" Their tone dipped in curiosity and pity. I gave them what they wanted, a vague smile and a freelance stuff, because the truth was for someone else. It wasn't long before the conversation turned, as it always did, to her. She's always been gifted. My aunt gushed. Remember when she got that scholarship? So responsible. Always knew what she wanted. My father, seated 2 chairs down, lifted his wine glass. Some kids are born focused, he said. They don't waste time chasing dreams on a laptop. There it was. Like clockwork, the table went quiet for half a second. A few glances shifted toward me, unsure whether to laugh or pretend nothing was said. I could have let it go. I could have smiled, changed the subject, swallowed the words like I always did. But not today. I reached into my bag, slowly and calmly, and pulled out the folder, thick, organized, stamped and printed, each sheet a quiet scream he had never bothered to hear. What's that? My father asked, frowning. I laid it gently on the table in front of him. Receipts, I said, every dollar I made over the last 2 years. He raised an eyebrow. I've been freelancing. Branding, design, consulting. I built a business. No loans, no handouts, no fancy job title. I flipped the folder open. This one's a retainer from a New York firm. $30,000 a month for 8 months. I flipped again. This one, a brand package for a tech startup in Berlin. $4,800. Another page. And these, my digital products sold over 600 times. Silence thickened around us. Even my sister was staring now. Total earnings as of last month. I said, tapping the final page. $105,247.34. My father didn't speak. He just looked at the paper like it had betrayed him. I know I didn't take your path, I said. My voice didn't shake, not because I wasn't nervous, but because I had rehearsed this moment in my head for 2 years. But I took a path, one I built from the ground up, with nothing but a second-hand laptop and a whole lot of nights no one knew about. Still no response. His hands clenched under the table. I don't need your approval. I continued, softer now. I never did, but I did want you to see me just once, not through the lens of who I wasn't, but for who I became. No dramatic exit followed. No shouting, no slamming doors. I simply closed the folder, left it on the table, and stood up. Before I walked away, I glanced once more at the man who once called me nothing. He didn't speak, but this time he looked me in the eyes, and that was enough. Epilogue weeks passed. Then a month, then a message from him. I read through the folder, didn't know, proud of you. Dad, I didn't cry. I didn't rush to reply. I just stared at the screen for a moment and nodded to myself. Because after years of being told I was less, I proved I was more than enough. Not for him, for me.